A funny thing happened to me on my way to invading Earth. I am your worst nightmare. Believe that.
Welcome to the Craze in 10 or less. This is the show where I give it to you in 10 minutes or under, and if I don't, these are the breaks. Anyway, you're an independent. This is your first attempt at making your own comic books. You don't have the money to hire letterers and all these other people. You want to letter the book yourself. How do you avoid making all the mistakes that rookies make? That's the topic of the day. I'm Sam the Crazy Man Vera. Stop acting up. Let's get it. All right. Anyway, so comic book lettering. Why am I talking about this? Why did this one come up? The reason why it came up is because I do a show called What's in the Box, and I know a lot of you have seen me do What's in the Box, right? And I see a lot of different comic books. I forgot how many episodes of What's in the Box is already up there. And I see a lot of rules broken when it comes to lettering. I see, you could tell who the novices are and who are the more seasoned vets, right? I see in one page the font size go from a 6 to an 8 to a 10. I mean, just constantly changing in the word balloons because they're trying to cram in so much information in these word balloons. I see, tails crossing. I see too many word balloons where you're covering up the art. I see small panels with big balloons. I see big balloons with small letters with all this white space. I see small balloons with big letters where it's like looks like it's like you're trying to cram sardines in there. It's just like, whoa, dude. I mean, who's lettering this stuff, right? But what's in the box is not for me to blow people up. What's in the box is me just to feature what you've got. It's the people who pick up your books. If they're willing to accept it, fine, do your thing. But so I decided to do some research because I, for one, don't. I'm not a letterer. And everyone knows George Medina has lettered my books, and he does an exceptional job with lettering. So there are some cardinal rules, but then I wanted to do some history, right? So I looked back, so everyone knows that there was some sort of form of comic or lettering with art since the dawn of time, whether you've seen hieroglyphics and there's type on the walls, whatever it was, forms of communication, the newspaper, all that stuff. And lettering was done by hand before it went over to digital. But a good history lesson, if you go to Multiversity Comics, and I'm going to pull that up real quick. Bang. So Multiversity Comics has a great article on the history of lettering, the history of comic book lettering, early years to 1940, right? And it has a really good insight if you really want it, for those who are historians or those who want to do their research, right? You go to the all great powerful Google, right, and you do your research. So one of the things that stuck out to me was everything changed in 1917 with the invention of the Ames Guide, and I think everyone used that when you first started lettering, right? Because the comic strips, the comic books, people were using that. One of the things, the first books that were lettered by computer, comic books, was this comic book here. Where is it? Boom, The Shadow. That was one of the first books lettered digitally by computer. Everything else at that time was done by hand. But before that, so and it was a good look at to the evolution of lettering. But what does that tell me? It doesn't tell me anything, Sam. You just give me you walking. I can go to the museum, Sam. Yeah, you could, but you're with me right now. So zip it, focus. So here's so then I found everyone, if you're in comics, you know about Blambot. You have to know about Blambot if you're in comics. So and Blambot, where is that thing? Overview. So there's a lot of information on the web, by the way. Anyway, but Blambot this guy created Blambot because he couldn't find enough fonts, and then he started licensing his fonts, and he was lettering for the big boys, DC and Marvel and all that stuff. And so, you can find all the rules, all the things to do and not to do on Blambot. It's great. So if you're trying to letter your own books, go to blambot.com. You can get free fonts. You can also buy fonts. You get a lot of great tutorials and lessons on making comic books. So do yourself a favor. If there's anything that you take away from this, go to Blambot, check it out. You know, and so underlined terms, references, and others are asterisks. An asterisk appearing in dialogue references to an editor's notes, right? So they're giving you explanations on what that is. These generally inform the reader that more information can be found in a separate issue, right? So that's what that's for. Balloon tails. If at all possible, a balloon tail should point to a character's mouth as if an invisible line continues on past the end of the tail to their face, right? They give you all the tools and information for you, right? I'm just like you. I'm a student of the game. I'm not preaching to the choir. I'm not standing on a pedestal looking down. This is if I have to letter my next book, this is where I would go. I'd have to go back and refresh myself on the game because I haven't lettered a book in ages. Bold and italic. There's almost no plain bold in comics dialogue. Typically, bold italic is used when emphasis is placed on a word. Occasionally you may use a non-traditional dialogue font that will actually work better than plain bold, right? Boom. Breaking borders. You see how they guide you step by step. And so I'm going to move on from Blambot, and I'm going to show you some of the mistakes to avoid in comics. And mistake number one, boom. I'm going to go here. So, and this is done by Nate Picos, right? So Nate is telling you, number one, right? Crosshair, right? A crossbar is only used for the personal. So the only time you use a crossbar eye versus a straight eye, right, is when the person is saying, I will go. I am Sam. Sam, I am. That's the only time that it's allowed, right? So the wrong way is I fight 5 flying foxes. And look at all those crossbar eyes. The right way is I fight 5 flying foxes. And you can see on top, right here, you can't even see my finger. Boom. Right? On the top one, it'll say that the crossbar is where the first introduction of who you are, I. But fight 5 flying foxes, all those eyes are just straight bars. They're not crossbars. Simple, right? Text should be stacked to comfortably fit inside a balloon shape, right? So the wrong way. Hey, Jim, here's the latest news about state sales taxes. And then you got this one, the right way. Hey, Jim, here's all the latest news about state sales taxes, right? So they're stacking the fonts on one side, the other one, they're elongating it, they're stretching it out, right? Leading spaces. Look at all that space in number 3. If you go leading space between lines should be just tight enough to fit 2 adjacent lines of bold text without clashing. So you can see the difference, right? Look at all that space. You're just taking more art away from that hard, painstaking work that the artist provided you. Why would you do that? Anyway, so here's another one, right? It says, do not make tangents between balloons and the inked artwork or panel borders, right? And you can tell what he's talking about between the two. Tails should not be too wide or be consistent width, right? So here are the tails. So you see how the tails change in every balloon? They should be consistent on the right hand side. So those are 1 through 5, right? And you're like, all right, you gave me some good examples. You went to some of the pros, Sam, but that was only 5. I want more. I'm hungry. All right, I'll feed you. I'll feed you. Here it is. Here's 6 through 10, right? Tails should never cross. Don't cross the tails, right? That's a rule. Even in adult filmmaking, they know no crossing, right? So no crossing swords. So tails should never cross. George's like, Sam, you're gonna get canceled. The right and the wrong way to do it, right? They got the tails crossing on one side, and the other side, you see as it goes, one goes up and one goes down. They're dodging, right? Number 7, when butting a balloon against a panel border, don't cut the balloon at its widest point. Right? So basically, almost centered. He cut it off. I fight 5 flying foxes. He cut it almost at the center. The other one is just a tip, just the tip of it. Right? So I fight 5 flying foxes. Seashells by the seashore. So number 8, tails should look as if they are emanating from the center of the balloon as much as possible. So I've made those mistakes so many times, right? Because I'm a novice, I'm a rookie, right? And so here it is. I'm learning as I'm talking to you. See that? Where's my education? Writing notes, right? You're like, Sam. So number 9, tails should point in the direction of the character's mouth as much as possible, right? So you see, the guy's talking from his forehead. Who talks from their forehead? Aliens? Certainly not me. And you got the other one. I fight fire. So I'm not saying that anymore. And then he goes the right way. See, he's aiming towards the mouth, la boca. So then you have number 10. Don't ever cover a head or important art. There's always another way, right? Don't make the bad choice, youngie. Make the good choice, right? So if you go to blandbutt.com, if you go to multiversitycomics.com, if you go to evenjwaterman.com, you're going to find a lot of good information on and general tips and guidance to help you look like a pro and not a novice. You might be new to the game, but you don't have to look it, right? They always say, right, it's dress to impress. First impressions, that cover of that novel is going to attract people to buy it. That's why they used to put Fabio on there, his hands flowing, right? And the woman like, oh, Fabio, right? Same thing, same premise. So when they open that book, you might have a talented artist killing it. Guy went all in. He says, yo, it's my first comic book I'm drawing. I'm going to make sure it's top notch. And then you go and letter it and mess it all up, sonny. And no one's going to take you seriously because that lettering job was just atrocious. And I can't even appreciate this guy's art because you covered it up. And I need glasses because your font's size is like a 2 or 4 on one page and then it's a 10 on another. I'm getting dizzy. Dizzy dinosaur. Be lucky or smart or you're back to start. So, these are just a few tips. It's because I saw that in the books and I was like, I got to talk about this. And then at the same time, I educate myself. So I'm with you. I don't want to make that mistake, which is why poor G put in pie handles my business. He takes care of the lettering. He's got my back because he knows that I'm whack. So if you don't know how to do it and you don't have time to educate yourself, get somebody who does. Stop playing. With that said, I hope you had a great and happy holiday weekend. I surely did. I have my family here, my sister, my wife. It was fun. We relaxed. A lot of spiked eggnog. Woo! Sipping on some scissor. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, sign up to There's an Alien in My Toilet. The landing page is live. We've got 26 people signed up and it's growing every day. Sign up. Be one of the first to get this hilarious adventure of Duty as he comes to Earth. And like this episode, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that bell so you can be alerted for the next episodes. And if you have any ideas for an episode, hit me up. Write them in the comments. Don't be shy. Stop on by. With that said, I'm Sam the Crazy Man Rare. This is the Crazy Tale Less. I'll see you later. Bless.